They wanted to start off by just saying, take us back and tell us the classes you taught and the room.
In other words, what was
and sort of how you got to Central as a teacher. And Rachel, what do you?
I actually wondered what time period you were teaching at Central.
What time period?
When you stopped.
Okay.
So how did you get to Central?
All right.
And then.
Well, let me take it back a little further than that. You'd probably like to know a little bit about me, I guess. First of all, I was reared down. You ever heard Monticello, I presume? Grew up on a farm about 5 or 6 miles south of Monticello with my grandparents, great folks. When I finished high school at the Rural Consolidated School of Drew Central, I immediately started college at old Arkansas A&M. Found out real quick that I didn't know for sure if I was ready. After all, I just still hadn't turned 18 yet. Mom didn't have much. She was teaching. And let me tell you folks, they didn't pay much back in those days. If she made $150 a month for 8 months, she did good. That's not even a week's wages now. But anyway, I convinced her that it would be to my betterment if she would sign my papers and let me go in the Air Force. She cried a while, as mamas would, and said, okay. I convinced her that if she did, then I would be able to use the GI Bill and go to school without any cost to her whatsoever. And that's what happened with that. Well,
now what year that was about?
That was, I graduated from high school in 1946.
Okay.
In case you're wondering, I was born in 1928. You can do the math. I know Clara can.
Spoke like a true algebra teacher.
Yeah. So anyway, I spent 3 years in the Air Force. After doing the training and so forth, I spent 13 and a half months on Okinawa, and then came back to the States. Spent about 4 or 5 months, I guess, up at Smoky Hill Air Base at Salina, Kansas. Then we shipped out for 3 months, temporary duty in England. I was stationed at the air base there at Lichen Heath in England, and had a wonderful time. You can. I'm going to tell you one thing about that, and that's all. All of you have read stories, I'm sure, of the great fogs that come up in England. I got to experience that. Never again. It lasted 3 days without any let up. And now, as one old boy said, if I'm lying, I'm dying. But you could literally, in the middle of the day, walk down the road like we had to do to go to the line, and you would not see one of the trucks coming toward you with his lights on until he was within 30 steps of you. I know that's hard to believe, and if somebody had told me that without my seeing it, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. But I did believe it after I saw it. It was something else. Okay, after I came back from England, they gave me a little pass home along in June, I guess. I got home and visited, and I was going back. And I passed through Conway on the bus. Lo and behold, there was 2 lovely young ladies got on the bus up in Conway going back home. They'd been off doing something. One of them got on and started trying to put her little overnight case up in the overhead, slipped out of her hand and hit me in the head. And you know what? I've been married to that woman 63 years come December. I thought you'd enjoy that little sideline. So, after I got out of service, I immediately enrolled at University, I want to say University of Arkansas, but it's not. It was old Arkansas A&M. Spent 1 year there. By that time, I think we both had the idea that we knew that we were supposed to be paired up. So with my aunt's help, who was the assistant registrar at that time, helped me to get transferred to University of Arkansas. So I moved up there in 1950. We got married in Christmas of 1950. On a temporary certificate for teaching, I began teaching in the fall of 1951 at a small school then, it's not so small now, called Valley Springs. You ever heard of it? Mm-hmm. Good, I'm glad somebody did besides you.
Outside of Harrison?
Yeah, just south of Harrison.
They were supposed to be here today with us, but had to move to, that's so ironic.
Really?
I talked to him today, I talked to the principal today.
At the time I was there, the average size graduating class, I'll give you a range, would be from about 12 to 18. That was the average size graduating class. Right now they're running in their school, K through 12, a little over 1,000. So it's no longer a little rinky-dink country school. It's a first class. They get a lot of kids that do quite well on their college exams and that sort of thing. That's where I began, 2 years. Went back to finish up my degree, and I did that 53. I have to stop and think, it's been a long time ago. I was to graduate there in January. Excited, man. I was going to be a Bachelor of Science in Education. Man, I was going to be a smart dude. The day or 2 days, I believe it was, before we were to march and graduate, Dr. Cross, who was my advisor, called me to his office. I thought, oh Lord, have I messed up and I don't have enough hours? You know, that's going to pass through your mind. I went into his office and we spoke, and he didn't mess around. He just asked me a quick question. He said, would you be interested in a position in Little Rock, Pulaski Heights Junior High? Man, that was something else. I said, well, I believe I would. I had not planned to. I came down, drove from Fayetteville down here, did an interview. Mom met me at the bus station. We went back together. The next day, we had our graduation. She was there with me. Thank the Lord, I appreciated that so much. Really did. And then I came back the next day and started teaching on Monday. Somewhere in that first 2 weeks that I was here, we got the word concerning the Brown versus Board of Education. All of you have heard of that, haven't you? Okay. That was a little bit later then, the Supreme Court upheld that thing, and that was now the law of the land. You know, for me, a young green teacher, little experience in a whole new situation, Brown versus the Board of Education meant little or nothing. What I was concerned with was teaching my kids and hoping that I did a good job. That's what I was concerned with. And I loved those kids. Oh, I had some good ones. I really did that first year. I won't go into the detail. That's not what you came for. I was there for a year and a half, and my uncle, who was the principal at that time of Crossett High School, kind of twisted my arm a little bit for me to come down there to go into high school. And he said, now I can't probably offer you any more money than you're making here, but he said, we'll let you drive a bus. I thought, uh-huh. He said, that pays $80 a month. I said, okay, I'll do it. Man, let me tell you something. In 1955, $80 a month was a hunk. It was a hunk. That'd be like about $800 now. So I did. Well, the problem was they had very little housing that was available down there, so I had to live for 3 weeks with my mother over in Wilmot, Arkansas, if you've ever heard of that. And I drove back and forth, drove a school bus and taught 6 classes a day. You'd love that, wouldn't you, George?
That's a workout.
That's a workout. That went on for 3 weeks, then we moved over. And after we moved over, it went along pretty nice for a while. And then all of a sudden it began to get fall, and the weather began to turn, and we get a little cold front, and the wind had come around out of the northwest. Have you ever been to a paper mill town? Ooh. Rachel, let me explain to you the best way I know how the smell of a paper mill when it's really blowing in on you strong. Have you ever smelled rotten eggs? Have you ever smelled a skunk? Mix them together. That's a pretty good idea. Anyway, before the year was out, we both, I think, had decided that, hey, this is not the place for us. Somewhere around, I guess it's about Easter, wasn't it? Somewhere right around there. Her parents lived up near Harrison, and so we drove up to that. She was still young enough. She left to go home to see Mama. And frankly, I kind of like going up there too. Anyway, when we came back, I stopped in Little Rock and I called Mr. Powell, not this J.O. It was his brother who was the principal at Pulaski Heights. And I asked him, I said, you going to have a position open next year? He said, I don't know, but I'll ask around. And he did. He asked his people, said, any of you retiring or quitting? Nobody said a word. He called I called him Dr. Jess Matthews over here. And he said, are you going to have an opening next year? He said, yes, I am. He said, I got just the guy for you. And he hadn't called me and told me to write my resume to him and hand it to him, and shoot, within 3 or 4 days I had a contract. That's how easy it was. That was in 1956. In 1956, I was an old man by that time. I was 28 years old. Gosh, thought I'd known everything. So that's where I started at Central. In the fall of 1956, right here in this room. I stayed in this room for 2 full years, and then the 3rd year didn't make any difference where you were. We didn't have any kids here anyway.
Let's, if you can, talk about that first year you're here and you're working with the high school students, and then what time during that year did you become aware of the desegregation plan for the the school year of 57, 58?
I knew about it and heard about it when we first moved back. And at the time we heard about it, the plan was in motion, and far be it from me to say it was the best plan, but it was a plan to begin. If you've studied it, you know that the plan was that they were going to start with 9 kids here at Central. And that would be done on the high school level first, and then it would gradually move down to the junior high, and from the junior high down to the elementary over a period of time. And I thought everything was going good. Really, it did. You didn't hear anything out of the ordinary. That school year went fine. We had one heck of a football team. Went 11-0. And that made it 22-0. And you talk about, how many teams do you know has won 22 in a game straight without losing one? Well, I'll beat you one better. At the end of the 57 fall, they went 33-0. They were some mean dudes on that. Wilson Matthews was the head coach. The next year, he went to University of Arkansas as an assistant coach. Now, that's off the track, sorry. I would say, in answer to your question, and I believe this with all my being, that the very vast majority of the teachers here, any of them that I ever came in contact with, I think were ready for it to happen. They all believed in the law of the land. Now, as little Abner said, whether it would be their druthers or not, I don't know. But they were willing to accept as it was. I was ready for it to. And it was not actually until in the summer that we began to get the nastiness. And that's the only thing, that's not necessarily a good word you should use in school, but that's the best description I know. It just plain was nasty. People acted ugly. They showed hatred, literally hatred. I don't hack that too well. So I accepted what was there. And I didn't know, I was not assigned any of those 9 kids. I didn't have any of them. That may answer the next question.
The students had wondered about that.
Yeah.
We were also wondering what you heard from other students about what was going on.
Okay. All right, in 57, when it started, we started somewhere, when we always start, so usually about somewhere a day or two after Labor Day.
Yes.
Things were supposed to have gone right then, but if we'd looked out these windows, there were people out on the walk, some of them not being very nice. There were signs of various things. Some of them